Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti sia a chi è connesso, è qui di persona sia a chi è virtualmente connesso. Io mi chiamo Michele Iorio, sono un proposal engineer per Tecno Project Industriale, che è chiaramente un'azienda del gruppo SIAD, parte del pianeta engineering del gruppo SIAD. Chiaramente l'argomento della presentazione sarà appunto presentarvi quelli che sono i prodotti, le tecnologie, i settori in cui è coinvolta Tecno Project Industriale, dato che però ho il piacere e l'onore di essere il primo a presentare ed aprire questa serie di presentazioni in questo fantastico evento, vorrei anche fare due parole su cos'è e chi è il gruppo SIAD. Il gruppo SIAD è una società che con ormai quasi 100 anni di esperienza, è un gruppo internazionale chimico che è stato fondato nel 1927 dalla famiglia Sestini, quindi da Quirino e Bernardo Sestini, che aveva sviluppato la sua azienda attorno a un brevetto, a un'idea che era quella della massa monolitica porosa che veniva utilizzato come riempitivo nelle bombole di gas per il trasporto in sicurezza di una sostanza quale il gas acetilene, che ancora oggi ricopre una relativa importanza tra i gas tecnici, ma al tempo ne ricopriva ancora di più. Di lì in poi SIAD non ha smesso mai di crescere, ha sempre acquisito più tecnologie, know-how, compagnie, ha esteso quella che era la propria impronta in termini globali, arrivando a definire quelli che sono
enlarging
adesso
our footprint, so to speak, and now we have 4 different planets, technical gases, engineering, healthcare and home care, and the LPG and natural gas. What do we have in common? What do all of these planets have in common? Well, the mission and the values of the group. The mission is that of fostering growth and for our customers with excellent products. Increase the impact at global level. So we want to become a more and more global company and group, focusing, however, at the same time on our values and on the environment. We mentioned several times already our values. As we said, in 5 years we will celebrate our 100th anniversary. And of course, all of our expertise is based on a constant focus on innovation, technology, reliability, and, as I said, expertise, but also focusing on social and cultural aspects and security of our product and services as well. Well, first, let's focus on the first, so to speak, planet for SIAD, where it all started, and that is the technical gases industry, so an area. So in the years we were able to extend our footprint in terms of territories, especially in Europe, Eastern Europe, and we've been providing services and products throughout Europe. The second planet, so to speak, is that of the engineering. We have SIAD Macchine Impianti, the leader company for the SIAD Group, with 2 divisions, piston compressors and also plants, so air separation units, and also lately biomethane liquefaction plants. That will be the topic of our presentation. And then we also have ESA, which is another company belonging to the group, and other ones. We are also present in the Middle East, in India and China. As you see, the applications are here listed, and we go from compressors, as I said, and gas and upgrading, and then healthcare and home care. Well, this industry has become more and more important also from a social viewpoint, and we can provide medical quality gas, but also devices, and this is what makes us different, especially on the Italian market. And then LPG and natural gas, mainly is benzoline, so especially focusing on Eastern Europe and in particular in Slovenia. After this short introduction, I would like to show you quite an impactful picture, i.e. you see where SIAD is present, in particular the engineering section TPI is part of. As you see, most of the companies are based in Europe, but we are present also in South America, in China, and we also have ASA present in India. So we are, yes, an international group. As for Tecno project Industriale, we are part of the SIAD Group. We are one of the engineering companies of the group. This company was set up 35 years ago through the idea of two entrepreneurs. They had one gas division and the CO2 plant division. Then in 2014, Tecno project became 100% ownership of SIAD Impianti, and so what we have left is CO2 plants. One further promising branch was then added, which will be the focus of today's presentation, which is biogas, the biogas industry. Yes, we're part of all of this through the design and production of such plants, and also design and installation of biomethane and methane plants. And this is possible thanks to the expertise of SIAD Impianti in this process technology, and we are partner in this industry, so has to be part of the biogas and gas supply chain. But we should not forget the CO2 plant. As you will see, we're able to recover and purify CO2 coming from almost any source, and we are among the market leaders in this technology. Here you see all the possible options and technologies that we can provide. Also in the biomethane liquefaction plants, we are availing ourselves of different technologies thanks to different acquisitions on the part of the group, so we can customize the solution according to the needs of the customer. And all of this is accompanied by a full range of integrated service solutions, including the most advanced technologies that are key for customers, also in the management and maintenance of the plants. So let's start with biogas, biomethane. Tecno project was actually able to achieve quite an important role in Italy in this industry. We're more linked to the production of so it comes from organic, different biomasses of the organic fraction of municipal solid waste. So this is made up of CO2 and methane. So the objective is to extract biomethane. And this biogas, even though it has these macro components, has a different quality, so we can provide biogas upgrading plants that will process gas from the exit of the biodigester, so wax and full contaminants. It's been then purified in line with the a GSE requirement, in our case SNAM requirements, and there are different technologies that you can use for the upgrading. We start at the pure biomethane flange exit, but then of course further facilities can be provided, but they're not part of the TPI sort of range. But of course we can propose all of these other pieces of equipment thanks to the partnerships that we have on the market, and all of the parts are pre-assembled in at a workshop. These are fully automated plants and easy to be controlled with high reliability values and high uptimes for the plant. Well, we were lucky enough in the sense that we have different kinds of biogases, but we were lucky enough to start with the biogas coming from the OFMSW, so the organic fraction of municipal solid waste, and these plants, especially in Italy, are those plants that have a high fraction of also of a pollutant. And so we were faced from the beginning and the pilot stage with sort of high requirements, and this allowed us to be ready for any kind of biogas, so to treat any kind of biogas coming from wastewater, for example, that have lower specifications. So we are really able to treat any kind of biogas. This is our claim, and here you see a few figures of a typical biogas plant. This is a 999 kW equivalent through the upgrading technology. So 50% biomethane and CO2. This is, it's the same percentage as for CO2. Well, CO2 this can be ejected through the atmosphere, and also we can recover this CO2 and provide an integrated system so that we can have a food grade CO2. As for the products, biogas upgrading plants using different technologies, but not only this, because we mentioned CO2 plants, but also other plants, biogas, biomethane, and analysis systems for CO2 through another company belonging to SIAD, which is Pentatech. Now, the benefits are quite many and quite sort of clear for those also that are not familiar with the market. So if you want to provide a boost to your company, and if you want to sort of create value added by creating a product, by processing scrap and OFMSW, well, we will reduce also the environmental impact, fostering circular economy. One of the technologies that we propose, which is the best one for such applications, is the membrane-based sort of technology, which uses high-efficient membranes to separate methane from CO2. Now, this technology, because of its features, is the one that is more highly developed. It's quite simple, and no many pieces of equipment are involved, and it is also very flexible, i.e. you can by changing the membranes, you can sort of meet different flow rate needs. And so the biogas production is not always constant, as we know in certain applications. This is certainly not the case. It's an innovative plant, certainly. We know that sometimes there are more consolidated upgrading techniques, but that are becoming a bit obsolete, whereas the membrane-based upgrading technology, thanks to advanced development in terms of the membranes, we can improve operational costs and management costs. So when it all started some 12 years ago, 5 generations of membranes have been developed with better and better separation capabilities and improvement also in terms of cost effectiveness. Now actually there's also quite a lot of know-how on this technology as well. As you see, we mentioned methane and CO2, but also other pollutants. We have 2 macro sections, a pre-treatment section and the upgrading plant. The first part will depend on the pollutant inside. The 3 main ones are ammonia, sulfuric acid, and you see come sometimes from the OFMSW or just specificities, but considering all of these 3 sort of pollutants, first step is to remove ammonia and water included in the gas. So we do this through sort of a cleaning tower that can work with water or sulfuric acid solution, which decreases the content of ammonia and cools down the gas, making it becoming liquid. And then there's a further step to remove H2S up to the specified and required values. And of course there's a lot of technology, a lot of progress behind all of these technologies. Well, why is this pre-treatment stage so important? Well, the gas has to meet the network requirements, and it must comply with all the regional requirements and rules and regulations in terms of emissions into the atmosphere. And the upgrading plant, having at its core the membranes, even though they're high performance materials, they're also sensitive to certain components, and so we need to make sure that these components do not get to the core of the plant, so as not to damage it and the materials, the membranes, or decreasing their efficiency. So this is actually also the more complex part for the maintenance of the upgrading, because you continuously have to monitor the plant. Once the gas has been cleaned by a pollutant, we move to the upgrading part. So we have this pressure jump, and the higher this sort of step is made, and then a biogas compressor, and the pressure that that is needed depends on the requirements, needs, and on the network needs, on the membranes used. Of course, we use with liters in this technology at 16 bars, but fact, we have a three-stage process that is patented, which allows for the quality required to be achieved, keeping low operational costs and also recovery efficiency high. So we are over 99%. In this way, I'm going to describe we are talking for, this is for natural gas, and then there are different procedures to be activated because you have to achieve a CO2 value that is lower. But all in all, the first two stages are increasing the quality of gas, and the third is meant to sort of recover possible methane losses so that we can produce enough gas with a high CO2 content, around 99%, so that it can be immediately treated in CO2 recovery plants for food-grade CO2. Another technology that we proposed is the one with selective solvent plant, a consolidated technology that is normally used for the separation of acid gases from various stream types and sources. It has been applied also for biogas. It's a robust technology. And to compare it to the membrane-based technology, well, you can achieve also higher efficiencies with lower costs, but the issues are there in the sense that it is a chemical plant, and therefore it needs constant monitor and high-grade monitoring, and it worries a bit the possible customers. But this technology, as I said, can be used. The weak point for this technology is the fact that we do have steam available on site, but of course you will have to carry over a purification, and we find the same steps: elimination of ammonia and H2S and VOC and siloxane, and then by use of a solvent we eliminate CO2, and we produce a solvent that is rich in CO2 and has to be recovered so that the plant works efficiently and in line with environmental requirements. So we use a stripper using vapor and steam to eliminate CO2 inside the solvent. So we get CO2 solvent with the low level of CO2. This is the upgrading part. But there is one further step that Tecno project can provide to its customers: biomethane liquefaction. Well, this is becoming more and more important in Italy and also in Europe for the use of biomethane. To be used as fuels for the automotive, and we are able to provide different technologies. We have the smart LNG technology and also the LNG Pocket technology. The first one is based on liquefaction of biomethane using direct nitrogen. We were the lucky ones to set up the first biomethane plant, liquefaction plant at Lucra Said Fratelli Toninelli in Lodi. This was the first plant for a liquid biomethane that is being produced through this technology. So smart The other technology is a bit more complex in terms of the process. Methane is being used by a compression, cooling, expansion, and liquefaction process. There's no one technology that is better than the other. It depends very much on the requirement of the customer. So the fact that we can customize the plant to the requirement of the customer is important. And here you see a possible application. As for the LNG Pocket, it can reach up to 5 to 10 tons per day, TPD. As for the smart LNG, well, this is the most suitable one for lower tons, so for a lower number of tons from 1 to 5. The pre-treatment polishing stage is the same. It's a TSA that reduces the CO2 content in the biomethane down to values that are suitable to avoid the solidification of this component in the biomethane during liquefaction. The other industry CO2 plant, another area we work in is CO2. Well, you know very well, due to Paris Agreement and the ambitious targets set by the EU, you all know that we need to reduce greenhouse gases, and one of them is CO2. And any farming activity or industrial activity produces CO2, so we need to reduce CO2. But maybe just a few know that for many companies is a requirement, but it can also become a value added.
So first of all, we have to consider the carbon footprint, which is the greenhouse gas emitted by the product manufacturing. You see, 1 kilogram of beef can produce 10 to 15 kilos of CO2, so you understand the impact of that. But in Italy, we need 500,000 tons of CO2, and historically, the CO2 comes from petrochemical processes or fertilizers, producers, ethanol, and also other techniques. But most recently, thanks to biogas and biogas upgrading technologies, well, biogas can become a source for food-grade CO2 production. And when it comes to this technology, I have to say that we are a leader, and we can customize the process depending on the source to be treated. And in particular, we account for 20% of the international market for the supply of these plants. And this is quite a lot if you consider that, you know, Tecno project has a smaller size compared to other big players. Now, there are three main areas. First of all, we have to look at CO2 content. So if we look at manufacturing plants, CO2 is recovered. Flow rates are very low. For example, there are some plants where the gas is burned to produce CO2, and this unfortunately happens in some countries. There is no drinking water, but they do have methane. And then there are other units treating, let's say, medium quantity of CO2, and then we have the liquefaction plants. In this case, the CO2 content is higher than 90%, and in this case, food-grade CO2 is produced. Now, the food-grade CO2 is what we offer. So as Tecno project, we, of course, in compliance with all the regulations, we can really supply this type of CO2 with a purity which is higher than 99%. But not all plants can guarantee such a purity grade. This is an example of CO2 capture and extraction plants. When I say food-grade CO2, well, we do have the 290 regulation. It is a EU regulation for food-grade CO2, but there are different rules and requirements, also stricter ones. Not in terms of plants, so the plant doesn't change, but we need assessment analysis instruments for CO2. The most common ones are ISBT and EIGA quality guidelines. They apply, for example, to breweries or distilleries or Coca-Cola plants, for example. And then we have the CO2 recovery plant. So this is the very last step in the process for the production of liquefied food-grade CO2. And these can directly be used, for example, in breweries. And this was actually the sector where we started from as Tecno project, working on the fermentation process. Over the last few years, other companies were involved, in particular the ones working in the technical gases sector, and other companies working in the waste industry. For example, companies providing incineration plants. So there is really a lot of customers for this type of CO2 production. So as we said from the beginning, we do offer service, we do offer support and assistance to customers for the operation maintenance of the plant. We do provide different levels of service. We offer the integrated full service. This is done by Tecno projects in Italy and in other countries, supported by SIAD. But however, we do take care of maintenance, we supply spare parts, we offer remote assistance 24 hours a day, 7 on 7, and also training courses. And this is an important service because I have to say that this is a new service named TPI for You. This is a remote monitoring diagnostic system that makes it possible to check the operating parameters of a plant using a smartphone. And the system can be tailor-made. We can set specific warnings or alarms in case of problems to the plant, and reporting activity is also provided. So this is a service, a cloud-based service that we offer, and this is different if compared to the type of service offered by other players. Now, let me really conclude by also giving you an idea of our presence. Well, in Italy, biogas upgrading is our main activity in Italy, and we have different plants, and plants having also different sizes. Unlike competitors, we have some of the largest plants in Europe when it comes to the amount of biomethane produced. We also have biomethane liquefaction plants, and this is quite a new technology which is becoming more and more common. We have a number of plants using both technologies, mostly in Italy. And if we want to have a picture about Europe, you see, we have a CO2 recovery plants from biomethane. Well, of course, if we look at CO2 applications, we have more than 600 plants in Africa, Middle East, basically CO2 plants, depending on the type of customer. This is it. I really would like to thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me. I will be here at our stand also in the next days. Thank you.